Now here is the original table I set up for extra turmeric. I never changed these out last year. I left them all fall, winter, and
Hi,
into
it is
spring.
Robbie from Southern California again, and look at this. Things are falling. I've had quite a few questions on ginger, like what am I doing wrong? My ginger's all dying back. I've done everything you told me. It did great all summer. Now that we're getting close to winter, the end of fall, it looks terrible. Well, depending on where you live, it's supposed to do that. What it's doing is it's pulling all its energy from its green growth and it's going to start going back into the rhizomes. This is when it goes dormant here in the United States. All my turmeric on the other side of the yard is doing the same thing. Though I could say it's a good thing, this is the way it works. It loves warm nights. And depending on what your zone is and what is going on, this is what it does when the nights cool down. It starts to pull back. Now, this is the time you can start to harvest. So you can harvest all the time, but once it completely dies back, that's when this is the way I do it. I take it out, which I'll probably be doing in the next month. I tip it in a wheelbarrow or a tote or something, and I fish out all my beautiful ginger. Now I clean it up lightly with a brush. I don't want to wash it. You can wash it, of course, but I don't want to wet it too much, especially if I'm going to go back and replant it. Look at all this back here has died back. Look at that. It's pushing through the top. Look at this. Is this not beautiful? And then I pick out what I want to keep for cooking. Look at this. See what it's done? It's all swelled up and it's in there. This is ready to come out. I pick out what I want to use for cooking and eating, and the rest I pack it away. There's different ways of packing it away. If I leave it outside here in Southern California and we get a lot of rain, what will happen to it possibly is it will rot into the soil and I could lose it. So if we have very cold nights and a lot of wetness to it, a lot of dampness, it will rot. I don't want it to rot. I put too much time into growing it, and I want it to grow again in the late spring when the nights are more in the upper 50s and into the 60s. Right now we're into the 40s, which is just simply too cold for both of these. That's turmeric with the big broad leaf. That's how you know if you've got turmeric growing. This is the orange one. Some people call it yellow. You can't see the purple stripe on these. This is the blue or purple or black. And this is ginger with the beautiful skinny leaves that are now turning from green to brown. So there's various ways of storing it. The easiest for me is just to dig it out, dust it off with a little brush or your hand or a paper towel, wipe it all down, and then put it in a pot with maybe some potting soil fresh out of the bag, because you know the potting soil you get out of the bag has no microbes. There, you want the cheap potting soil, something like you could even get Miracle Grow, the yellow bag. You can put it in there, or even kitty litter, and pack it away so it's not getting the air. If it gets too much air, it could rot. If you left it on the counter, it would dry up. You could put a little bit of water in there and then just sit it off to the side. That will keep it nice and fresh until late spring when you want to replant it. So I just store it in a pot, just like something it was in, and I put the pieces in there, cover them up so they're not exposed to the air, and they will be fine for the next 3 to 5 months. The rest of it goes in the freezer. I wash those, dry them, and then pack them up in plastic bags in the freezer, and those I know I'm going to eat. Will they grow out of the freezer? Usually not, because remember, these plants don't like the cold. But this is the right thing to do. This is what it is doing. It is dying back. Now, another thing you can do, if you don't want to go for all that and you simply want to pull some out, is you can pull some of them out, and then this is really hard packed, so I want to tip it before I pull it. You can pull it out and then leave some of them in a pot and put it somewhere in the garage, maybe in a back room, and just let it sit there. Only put a very little bit of water in there so it doesn't dry out completely. I mean, maybe water it once a week, once every 2 weeks, just a little bit, maybe a quarter of a cup, if that. So it won't dry out. It will stay dormant, and then you can drag your pot back outside in the spring when nights start to warm up. That's another option, and we've done it. Now, if you grab them right now when they're green, like this, there's a good chance it will continue to grow in the house as a house plant. Put it by the window, put it someplace where it's not in a draft or it's not getting too cold, and it could stay green until spring, and then you can bring it back outside. So you could pick half of it, pull half of it out and use it, and leave the other half in there, put some fresh soil in there and do it that way. There's so many ways that we can preserve it for later. If you have a greenhouse, of course, you could drag it in a greenhouse. They may not die back completely, might look kind of ragged until spring, but if your greenhouse is really warm, it will continue to grow. Remember, what it doesn't like, both of these, ginger and turmeric, it does not like to be wet and cold.
Now here is the original table I set up for extra turmeric. I never changed these out last year. I left them all fall, winter, and into spring, and they regrew beautifully. And what happened was there's so many, I started to have more tables set up here. Plus I'm propagating and planting bulbs now. Now somehow this tree is keeping it just perfect where it's not getting that much rain when it does rain. It shelters, because you know how trees are designed really to make the water go on the outside. Everything trickles down and it goes out, out, out. And most of the rain falls around where the roots need it, which is on the outside perimeter of the tree. Well, it's sheltered the turmeric really good. I have to get some ginger back here for next year. And it just worked great. I never took these out, didn't have time. I just put a little bit of fresh soil from the ground or compost, leaves and stuff on top, and it regrew into beautiful turmeric. So now I've kind of spread it all along, and I'm gonna go ahead and harvest some, and I may leave it if our winter is mild. Just leave it like I did last year, because I never lost a single one. Every single container I had here with turmeric grew back after it completely died back. So there was no work involved. So when I needed turmeric, I just came over here. I reached in maybe with a shovel or a spoon or my hand, pulled out when I needed, and just left the rest. But I do know the pots are going to split because turmeric grows down and then it expands. See how the pot is all misformed and everything? Because it will push on the pot and it will break a plastic pot. So it does really need to be harvested correctly, dumped, taken out, soil put back, and then a piece of turmeric put back. And that's the way you really do it. But I get lazy, so do as I say, not as I do. That's the old saying. But you do it the way you want anyways.
And like I said, anything you want to use for, let's say, grating up for putting into, or chopping up, and putting it into a stir fry or cookies or whatever, take your favorite pieces that you want to keep, wash it, dry it, and pack it in the freezer, and then take it out as needed, grate off what you need, and then put it back in the freezer. It will stay fresh for years that way. So I hope I answered your questions on that, because I've got a lot of you coming to me saying, oh no, I don't know what's happening to it. Well, that's what happens when you're in the United States and the weather is changing and we're going into late fall into winter. It is time for it to go to sleep. So with that, have a wonderful day. I'm going to do these probably in another month, because we're at the end of November and we're almost in December here, and we haven't had rain here. A few places have had rain. We just get a little bit of drizzle. This is not going to hurt it at all. If it stayed this way, I could actually leave them here and they would be fine. And I would hit them with water maybe once a week with a little bit of water, because I don't want it to dry out completely. But I know our weather will change in January. And when it gets really cold and we're in the upper 30s and we get rain, too much rain, I don't want to take a chance of it rotting. So that's what I'm going to do. So with that, have a wonderful day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye. I definitely should pick some and make some more ginger cookies. This one's completely done. I could take that one out at any time. Look at that. Oh, I think I will. Look at that. Fresh ginger. Gosh, I can smell it from here.
One last tip, when you store them, be ready when the time is ready for them to grow. They have a clock. Mother Nature tells them go for it. And these grew so big before I got them in pots, but they still grew good, and look how big they got in that little bit of soil they were stored in all winter. Oh my goodness.